Simple reason is that there was a young woman there, 17 at the time, called Darnella Fraser, who gave evidence in the trial. You might remember she talked about how she sat up at night apologising to George Floyd for not doing more. The very fact that she recorded what the world saw as 8 minutes and 46 seconds, we now know that incident went on for longer, and posted that video on social media that night. So within 24 hours, the world had seen, within hours of George Floyd dying, the world had seen what had happened to him and how he died, and saw that image that, of course, is burnt into the consciousness of so many people now of Derek Chauvin kneeling on his neck. You have to wonder, if it hadn't been for that video shared so widely on that night, whether this case would have ended up like so many, or whether we'd be here with such attention on this case. Even the police chief of Minneapolis, who testified during the trial, said that it was as he was arriving at police headquarters that night when the full story of what had happened was starting to emerge, started to hear about that video. So Darnella Fraser, she's now 18. She's never talked outside of the court about her decision to record that night. She was standing next to her young cousin, I think it was, who she'd gone to the shop where George Floyd was to buy sweets in that shop. Her role can't be overestimated, because that video, of course, was key in this case. And as we've seen with other shootings that have happened, when there is that video, it's enormously powerful and plays a major part in getting the public's attention. And of course, what it's meant as well is that the police have had to be much more transparent in many cases with their own video. We saw in this trial the body camera footage from the cameras that all of those officers were wearing, including Officer Chauvin, that has built the picture of that story. But the incident with Dante Wright that Sally was just talking about, the police released the body camera footage of that incident. The incident in Chicago last week of the 13-year-old. These stories are now being played out on video, and the world is seeing that video and helping, if you like, with the transparency. But Darnella Fraser's decision to record, and those 8 minutes 46 seconds that she recorded, very significant, critical to the story of George Floyd and Derek Chauvin.
Greg, we're still seeing the court seal. We are waiting, obviously, for Judge Peter Cahill to bring everybody back into court from Hennepin County, Minnesota District Court. Let's just see the court seal, shall we? There we are. So we're just waiting for the court proceedings. Everybody filing back in, no doubt, to listen to the jury's verdict after just over 10 hours. But Greg, you were talking there about the police chief who testified against Derek Chauvin, but also from witnesses we heard that the police calling the police on the police, and this is real part 2 of the prosecution case.
Yeah, it was, and a real weight of evidence from, as you say, the police chief on down, the head of training, the expert in use of force, the longest-serving officer in Minneapolis police force, all appearing for the prosecution against one of their own officers. But yeah, the bystanders who were there, and they were described as a tableau of humanity early on in this case. There's a still image of them all lined up along the pavement there, watching what was going on. And we heard many of them calling on Officer Chauvin to release the pressure on George Floyd's neck, to check his pulse, all of the imploring that went on. But yeah, Donald Williams, who was a mixed martial arts expert, he worked with the police. He said he called 911 after witnessing what he saw, because he said he believed he witnessed a murder. The off-duty firefighter who was there as well, similarly, who tried to render aid, tried to ask if she could offer medical aid to George Floyd, and was pushed back. She called 911 as well to report what she'd seen. Even somebody working in the emergency call center, the dispatcher, who was watching just because she felt something was wrong, picked up one of the images from a CCTV camera across the road, watched what was going on. She thought the picture had frozen because they were on George Floyd for so long, and called the supervisor to say, I think she said she didn't want to be a snitch, but she felt something was wrong. They called the police on the police, which, as was pointed out in some of the closing arguments, is testimony to how people still feel about the police in this city, that they feel they should be able to trust them, even though they were witnessing what they were witnessing and believed it was wrong. And the evidence of those bystanders, all from very different backgrounds, it doesn't appear many of them knew each other, was critical in the early days of this prosecution case, building that picture of just ordinary people who felt they needed to do something but were powerless, because the people with power were the ones carrying out the incident that so bothered them.
Greg, for the moment, thank you very much.